There we go. Okay. All right. Well, welcome all. For those of you who have not joined us before, we always start with this photo. I start with this photo because it reminds me when I was first starting on this journey with our daughter. She's been at it for 5 years, but when we started, I knew nothing, and I felt like I was racing down this highway of all kinds of information flying at me, and I didn't know what to do about it or what to pay attention to. And so my goal is always with these sessions to help us feel a little more zen, a little calmer. And today we'll do introductions and then our standard set of norms, go over the Child Actor 101 resources. And since Amber's here, she will share with us, I hope, if that's okay, to share her classes that she's got going on right now with ActorSite. And then we'll talk about onset etiquette and vocabulary, because this was a space that I learned a lot when our daughter first started, and I screwed up a lot. And so I'm going to share that knowledge with you all so you don't. And then we'll have open Q&A, and we have a bunch of questions that people asked when I asked people what they wanted to cover. And so I'm going to try and answer those as well as we go. All right. So let's do our renamings. If you're on your phone, don't worry about it. You can put it in the chat if you want. But basically, we want your first name and then the age of your child and then how many years you've been at this. And that way we know. And if you can put it in the chat, if you can't do it on your phone, but you can put it in the chat, that'd be great. Because we want to make sure that we're giving everybody the right level of information that's most helpful for them. And let me just pull up the chat so I can see that too. So many screens, so many screens. Oops. Okay. Awesome. Great. And then if you have any questions that you want answered before we end today, that you're like, oh, let me not forget this, go ahead and put those in the chat. Excellent. So we've got Stacy, who's 14 years old, been in this 1 year. Frankie has Isla and Margot. Oh no, that's her full name, Isla Margot. Got it. Okay. And she's 11. You've been at it for a year. Okay. Amber is a total pro. Millie, 14 in 1 year. Jeanette, 10 years, 4 years. Stephanie, I can't remember. Yours is less than a year, right?
We're
No.
5 years and a 15-year-old. I will update. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry.
No, you're going good.
Bad memory today. I think it's because of the holidays coming.
On these calls, I'm impressed you even ventured a guess.
It's good to see you, though. We missed you. All right.
I missed you guys, too.
Yay. And then Nika, let's see, 20, 19, 16, and 9 months, and you've been at it for 10 years. Oh, my goodness, Nika. Wow. That is impressive. You go. That's amazing. Congratulations. The fact that you're like still trucking, I love it. All right. So also for those of you who haven't joined us before, we ask every time, are we good with adhering to these while we're talking? And you're welcome, Nika. And that last one, second to last one of the 3 knocks is just if we get off topic, including myself, if we sort of like, knock, 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 can we get back to where we're supposed to be? That's what that means. So can I get either a real thumbs up or a virtual thumbs up if you can live with these that you see on the screen? Yay. All right. Excellent. Or you can just say so. Like, if at any point I ask you to do something you can't do with your hands because of where your phone is or what you're doing, just come off mute and say so. All right. So for those who may not be aware, there are a million. Thank you, Nika. There are a million. Frankie, you don't have to feel bad. That's like, wow. You and Nika have a lot in common. You should have conversations. So for those of you who might not be aware, and I gotta change that. There's a slide right there that I gotta change, that I gotta fix. Hold on 1 second, because it's gonna annoy me if I don't fix it. Because Amber caught the error last time, and I just didn't fix that slide. There are all kinds of things that are available that Corey has curated on Child Actor 101. There, fixed. Where He's built tools, he's built resources, he's built guides, he's created websites, like all the things for us to use as parents. And this is just a smattering of them. Yes, our Facebook group is called Child Actor 101, but he has a whole website devoted to all things helpful for parents. It looks like that. And then he's got tools to help us prep for auditions with our kids. He's got tools for us to prepare ourselves as readers for our kids. He's got tools to help us with that, ever present, like, make bold choices. Like, well, how do I do that? What do I do? Right? Not us personally, but our children. He's got help for that. And all of it he has posted in the Facebook group back on May 5th. He's listed all of them with links. And there he is, smiley facey. All our free guides, resources, etc. And for those who haven't seen where this is, don't go now, because it'll take you a long time and you'll get distracted. But at the end of our session, I'll show you exactly how to get there super easily. But you can spend days going through all the fabulous resources. Yay! Oh, and you get room service, Jeanette. I love it. Awesome. All right. So on-set etiquette and vocabulary. So I was saying before a couple of you joined us, the reason I picked this topic was because I will never forget. I was on set with our daughter, and it was, I want to say it was like her third movie. And I did not have an excuse to not know this term by that point, but I think I just hadn't been paying attention or listening. And somebody said, "Hey, can someone grab me an apple?" And I was like, yeah, I can. They're down by the front door, which is where Crafty was. And for those of you who don't know what Crafty is where there's food, right? And so there was a whole table, and they had apples, and they had oranges, and they had chips, and they had water, and they had all those things. And so some crew member went running down to the front stoop or whatever, because we were filming in this big mansion house thing. And they did not find what they were looking for, because they weren't looking for an apple. They were looking for an apple crate, which is basically what crew members use for suspending things higher, right? Like you put a camera on it, or you have a kid stand on it to get a little taller. You can have a half apple. You can have, I can't remember what a quarter apple is called.
Pancake, and they usually say apple box.
There you go. Yeah, but these people weren't saying apple box. They were just saying an apple. Give me an apple. Give me. So I felt so stupid, and they all laughed at me when we all discovered that I was talking about one apple and they were talking about another apple. But they were kind. It was kind laughter. I loved that crew. They were a great crew. But so I was like, my gosh, how many of these other terms are there that I am now used to, but other people are like, what is that? And so I figured, why not share them? And we had somebody, when I asked for questions last time, said, one of their questions was a casting director, and they said something like, can we talk about parents who are in this more for themselves than for their kid? And some of that relates to when we're on set. And so I wanted to sort of meld those two together a little bit, because I asked them for follow-up about what exactly they meant, because I can imagine some of the things they meant, but they haven't answered me yet. So, but in general, let me just see a show of hands. How many of you have been on set already? Give me a thumbs up. Figured it up. Okay. Okay. So some have, some haven't. Great. Okay. And for those of you who have, feel free to chime in and add your experience and stories as well. Don't be shy. So, why does it matter? Well, it's just like any other place that we go. Politeness and following protocols matters, so that we don't create stress and anxiety for people. And especially on set, we're talking time is money directly, right? Because you're usually people are getting paid by the hour. And so everything that delays something delays the shoot and then ends up costing more. And we don't want to do that to people. So as much as we can know beforehand, and as polite and kind as we can be, makes everything easier for everybody. So, and for your kid, it's such a valuable skill, right? Because you're basically teaching them context switching. Like, this is the way I behave at home. This is the way I behave with my friends. This is the way I behave at school. This is the way I behave on set when I'm at work. And it is a job, because it is a job. They're getting compensated, usually in some way, shape, or form, whether it's free meal or money or food or whatever it is. And knowing set etiquette will help your child feel calmer when they know what to expect. So if you can help them, and sometimes I've actually had parents who like practice being on set. They pretend with the little ones before they go. It's kind of cute. And when you, and this has happened to Evie time and time again, when you are like a model set citizen, is what I call it, people notice. And so your lighting people notice, your sound people, your sound technicians, your production assistants, and if they're involved in some other production that needs somebody that looks like your kid, they will recommend you, and they will call you, and they will be like, "Hey, we saw you over here. Would you like to come audition for this?" kind of thing. So your reputation spreads. For us as parents, same thing, less anxiety. It builds all that trust, right? There are nightmare parents that set people do, directors, gaffers, etc. They don't want to work with because they were horrendous and all about themselves or crazy demanding about their kid. Or one of the things I share with parents a lot is when you think about the gestalt of creating a film, the overall amount of time, energy, effort, attention to detail, hours that have gone into creating a movie, actors are this tiny of a part, right? Like they're thinking about locations and permits and the weather and their equipment and rental fees and travel and like so many things. And sorry, but you know what? The actor can be replaced. They can find another actor relatively quickly, and sometimes they do. But all those other things, those are much harder to adjust. And so it behooves us to remember that people, I think sometimes people have this like, oh, well, my child is the star. It's like, that's a good way to drive everybody around you nuts. Anyway, so, and it is a small industry. News travels fast. So you want to protect your reputation. Let me ask you all, what feels the most intimidating or has felt the most intimidating when you're on set? Somebody said, we've been on set a few times, and every time there's one mom that's a little catty. So now you try to guess which one it'll be. Oh, I'm so sorry. The ones we've encountered are usually very kiss butt to all the film crew and director and rude to the other parents behind closed doors. It doesn't bother us much, just more of just an annoyance. Yeah. I've seen some of those. I've experienced some of those. And isn't it nice when you don't? Right? Isn't it lovely when everybody on set is friendly and helpful and just somebody you would want to invite over for dinner, like, because they're lovely. Yeah, it makes it so much better. All right. For those of you who haven't been on set yet, anything you're wondering, or you wish, or you've been on set and you were like confused by something, and you don't have to put it in the chat. You can just say it out loud. Going once, twice. Oh, here we go. I try to hide since it's not my world. I'm usually still trying to get work done. Oh, yep. But Isla and I must be okay because that is how my son got his first job. They reached out because they liked Isla and she impressed someone and wanted to know if she had sisters. And they changed the role to a boy for him. I was flabbergasted. Yeah. That'll happen. If you're super well behaved and model citizen, yeah. The first movie Evie ever shot, the director literally told us he did not like working with children. But because of how well behaved she was in the audition, they changed the script from an 18-year-old to an 11-year-old. They changed the whole plot. It was short. And that was purely because of how she did in the audition room and how well behaved and how polite, and like, because she shakes everybody's hand, she looks them in the eye, all that kind of stuff. For a little kid, that was impressive. And so he's like, I got to tell you, I don't like working with kids, but you impressed me, kind of thing.
I wonder if this is the same director, because he literally said, I don't like kids, but I liked your kids, so I want to know if you have more. Yeah. So it was very weird. He was like, I don't like kids, but I really liked your daughter. I was like, okay. But she was too old for this role, I guess. But it was funny. I was flabbergasted. It's never happened.
Yeah. stuff like that. It does. So always bring your best, your A game, and your manners. I always tell my daughter, like, okay, where are our manners? Put them in your pocket. Make sure they're coming with us on set. Oh, she's usually like super well behaved, so it's fine. All right, so couple things to note for, especially for those of you who haven't been there. And again, moms, if you have experience, and Amber, that you want to chime in, feel free, please. So early on time is on time. So early on Broadway, it goes, or at least when we're doing theater, it goes early is on time is late is fired. Right? So why does it matter? Because call time is not when you get there, it's when you start working, right? The clock starts when we want to start actually filming, kind of thing. So that means you need all this time for hair, makeup, wardrobe, miking up, all the things, right? So don't go late. Like, aim for, we actually always aim for an hour early. Now, that's not to say that we walk in the door an hour early, but we're like, okay, let's late. If the shoot starts at 7, we want to aim to get there at 6 because God forbid there's traffic or, something happens. And then we'll just hang out in the car until about half an hour before, usually. So anybody else? Do you have any, like, what's your sweet spot for arriving early?
Somewhere I had heard 8 minutes, but now you have me nervous that we're waiting too long. I've always wanted to strike like, we usually, to your point, get there super early. We're grabbing a quick nibble, using the bathroom nearby, like
Right.
chilling, but never wanting to be too early that we're in the way. Like, I know sometimes it's for, say, the fitting and there's somebody going before us, or hair and makeup, and like they're not really expecting us. So, but yeah, now I'm wondering if we're waiting too long.
Gotcha.
I'd
Amber,
say it depends on
that's
how
almost
many people are on the call sheet. And it
Um,
depends what location you're at that day. Because if you show up a half hour early and they're only allowed to have like 3 people on this particular location at that time, because that's within the contract, they'll actually be mad at you. But if it's a short film or everybody's going to be there the same call time and your kid's number 1 or 2 on the call sheet, well, then you should be there early. If your child's also really young and not super mature, then you might not want them waiting that extra half hour, because sometimes when you get there early, like a CLC or someone will say, oh, well, we need to start them earlier. You need to leave because we can't start them until this certain time.
right.
I personally try to get to the parking lot or wherever I'm going to be 30 minutes early. If I know, even if it's like a studio or something, because it might take a little while to walk through, but I try to get there about 10 minutes early myself. But it depends on the project.
Yeah.
Better
Yeah.
off being early than late. And if there's traffic, I will definitely get in the area way earlier.
Yeah. The other reason why you might want to get there earlier is depending on who's doing your wardrobe, right? So if you're bringing all your kids' wardrobe and you got to lug all that stuff in from the car or whatever it is, right? Then that's another reason that you need that time, because you got to figure out where you're going, right? Do you have 6 elevators and 4 stairwells but while you get in there, or is it quick and easy in and out? So you can't go wrong with giving yourself enough time, because you can always step back out, right? You don't have to stay. If you can get there early, check in and be like, okay, I'm going to step out of your way. We'll be back when you need us, kind of thing. All right. So there. And that's the other, if they, unless you want to check and make sure, do they need you dressed or not? Right? Depending on what it is. If it's an indie film, if it's a short, if it's commercial, it's like, do they want you dressed? But definitely fed. Don't go there and expect to be eating from all their food for crafty. Now, I've been on sets where, yes, they feed you breakfast, right? As soon as you get there, it's lovely. But you don't want to necessarily count on that. And so the common mistake people make is like, oh, it said the call time was 8 a.m., so I'll get there at 8 a.m. Oh gosh, don't do that. Don't do that. All right, so we've talked about all these. And basically we're trying to avoid rushing. I don't know about you, but when I'm rushing, I get stressed, right? And so if I'm stressed, my daughter's stressed. So that's the other reason why. Get there with plenty of time. And then you don't have to go into that state, if you will. Okay, so listen first, talk later. So the assistant director, the director, the crew, they're all going to be giving directions all the time. And you want your child to be able to pay attention. And depending on their age, you want them to be able to pay attention independently, right? So basically, you shouldn't have to translate constantly what's happening. Now, if they're younger, there's going to be a little bit more acceptance of that, but they should be paying attention, right? Is somebody calling their name or calling their character's name, right? Or calling for the hero, right? Which I always think is funny because little kids are like, I'm the hero. Yes, you are. But so for instance, if there's so many times where I've been tempted to do this and it like physically pains me, but just don't. The director will say something to my daughter to get a particular reaction or action. And she'll do sort of what they said. And then they'll be like, okay, let me try again. And they'll say it a different way. Or they're like, okay, that's fine. But I know she can do better, right? She just needs different words to describe it. And I can't say a word because it's not my job, right? I'm on set to be a parent. I am not on set to be a director, kind of thing. Now, I will not put myself above if there's a break and they're still about to shoot that. I might offer like some choice suggestions to her quietly aside where nobody else can hear us to help her, but never while the director is working.
I will add to that for anybody that has very young kids, like 3, 4, 5, and let's say it's a commercial or something like that, you can always at the beginning tell the PA, if you feel my child isn't listening well enough, I'm happy to come in and translate. And more than half the time, they'll take you up on that. A lot of times the directors are okay with having help, more so in commercial or indie film settings. If it's a big network show, way less likely. But it's okay to offer, but go to the PA first if you want to.
There you
Once
go.
your kid's over 10, pretty much forget it. They're on their own.
Yeah. All right. Any
Can I
other?
ask one question? I have
Yes.
a question back to the on time thing I was just thinking about. I'm curious where you strike the balance for auditions or like callbacks. How early, again, same thing, you're getting to the vicinity extra early to make sure you don't hit traffic and stuff. But I've noticed like if we get there too early, they have very set blocks and it's often a very small, so we're near New York, so it's usually like a very small waiting area. Is there
Mhm.
a sweet spot of like how many minutes to arrive prior to your assigned callback slot that's like early enough that if they're running ahead, you're available, but not too early that you're like overcrowding this very small, potentially space, or I don't know. 6
Amber
minutes.
says 6
Maybe that's
minutes.
where my 8 came
15,
from.
15 minutes.
Oh,
Oh,
15.
15
Oh,
minutes.
15. Okay. Oh, 15. Okay. That's helpful. Thank you.
Yay. Yeah. And sometimes, so having run auditions for an equity theater, sometimes they are running early and the directors would much rather get out of there sooner. And so, and for at least for our theater, when somebody arrives, we note what time they showed up. And so it's very telling when they go back and look, they're like, okay, they had a 2:40 audition. They showed up at 2:30. They showed up at 2:25 versus they showed up at 2:30. Yeah. All right. And PA is production assistant. Frankie, you asked. All right. Let's see. All right. So hands off, eyes on. What does that mean? Don't touch the props. It's the same in theater, right? But also don't touch the wardrobe that's not yours. Don't touch set pieces. Don't touch the cameras. Like, my son, when he was little, thank goodness he was not interested in all of this world because he wanted to touch everything and he wanted to undo everything. And oh my gosh, it was stressful. So, we got to work with our kids, especially the younger ones, to remind them, like, we can't touch things that aren't ours, especially for continuity purposes. That can be a big issue, right? God forbid they break a prop. Oh my goodness. And so this is not like going to the zoo or the zoo is a bad example. It's not like going to a children's museum where they're encouraged to, touch and play with all the things. No, these are people's work items. And so we shouldn't be letting our kids touch and can I try on this hat, right? Because that'll be a problem. So if you don't know, just don't. Just don't. When Evie was small, we used to, in stores, we would tell her, this is a one finger touch store. So if she saw something that was super, super attractive, she could like stroke it. And when we got to set, I was like, this is a 0 finger touch store. All right. So, our role as a parent, right? Quiet support. I jokingly sometimes say our job is to be beige, right? Just blend in with the wall. If somebody needs you, they will come find you. Our role is to keep eyes and or ears on our child directly or through the monitor to make sure they are safe and to step in if we think they're not safe. But other than that, we're not there to direct. We're not there to do their hair and makeup. We're not there to do their wardrobe, all the things. There are other people who will take care of that. So we take a step back, right? Now, that also doesn't mean like wander off, go away, do your work, have conference call. Like you would never do that because it's loud. It means you have to be present. You can't be like constantly doing this and like, oh, what? Huh? That doesn't help, right? People don't appreciate that. Unless your child is on the older side and they really aren't, they don't need your help for anything, right? And they're fine speaking up if they need something. But our job is to be beige. We talked about this a little bit. We don't need to correct or recoach. And if our child makes a mistake, that's the director. They might keep that because it's cute. Who knows, right? But yeah, we're on the sidelines, not in the scene. Okay. Any questions, observations? Hot set, yes. Yes.
I remember the first time I heard them say that, I was kind of like, cool. Like I didn't understand that concept, but now it makes sense. Hot mic, hot like, yeah. Since we're talking about lingo.
Yes. Yeah, hot mic is a good one, actually. And I would assume always that your mics are hot. Whenever your kid has a mic, that mic, just keep it. It is on, it is recording, and somebody is listening every single second. Hi!
Hot points also means watch out. Hot points if they're moving C-stands or anything like that.
Yep, sometimes you just get points. Like somebody's carrying a ladder through and they'll be like, points, points, points. Yep. Okay, so there's a lot of words here. I'm going to give you a minute to read through some of the basic ones, and then I added some fun ones. Any questions on any of the ones in the boxes?
I was going to say sometimes rap is individual specific, right? They'd be like, Colby, you're wrapped for the day, and everyone kind of claps, but like filming's still going on, but that individual character or person or whomever is finished their part.
Yeah, that's a wrap on Stephanie today. Thank you so much. And off she goes. Yeah. The first time we experienced that, I was like, wow, that's so nice. They clap you out. Like we once actually used to go to a studio that was called Back to One. And we're like, why do they call it that? And then we learned, right? Yeah. Okay, so how about the other ones? What's room tone? Who wants to give it to us? And Amber, you can't play because you know all these. Go ahead, Stephanie. Yeah.
Is that where like everyone needs to be quiet because the sound person is trying to get like the ambient background to kind of balance the...
Exactly. So they want the sound of like the air conditioner running or the heat going, or maybe it's a fire crackling in the fireplace, or whatever the ambient noise is, so that when the sound engineer is trying to fill in moments later, they have a stretch of that sound for that room at that time. And then it's always funny to me when like they're doing hold for room tone and everybody's totally frozen, and then a train goes by or a plane flies overhead. It's like, so they keep that because they might want to use it, but But then we have to hold for longer to get silent room tone, if you will. Excellent. All right. How about sound speed, camera speed? So that they'll say when, so the reason where this came from is it used to be that the machine that would capture sound and the camera both needed time to get up to speed. So sometimes you'll hear them say speeding, right? And now it's just an indicator that yes, sound is ready and we're rolling, camera is ready and we're rolling. And so those are called before the director calls action. So you'll just hear them repeat it. And sometimes the AD will go camera asking, and the camera will go camera speed, and they'll say sound, and they'll say sound speed. And so now everybody's on the same page. We all know that yes, we are rolling and we are good. And then we can call action. Last looks. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I feel like that's when they're giving the last check of cast. Sometimes then hair and makeup run in and like
Yep.
twiddle something to get it ready, but it's, yeah.
Yeah. It's that last check to make sure that everything's right. Like, is her nose shiny, or is her hair out of place, or is his collar or his tie or whatever? Like, are we good? Right? Especially for continuity purposes from one scene to another. That's also too why they'll take a picture often of your child in costume before they start. So this is the look that we want. This is the look we're going for. And so then they'll consistently check against that. Points we talked about. If somebody's walking through the set, whether it's hot or not, with something that could catch on somebody or they want you to be careful about, they'll say points. And it's, I don't see this on every set, but some sets I do, where when somebody says points, other people say, thank you, points, to say, yes, I heard you, and thank you for the advisory, right? It's the same with if the AD says, let's take 5, everybody says, thank you, 5, and that signals, okay, I heard you, I know, I am aware, I am taking responsibility for the fact that I have 5 minutes of a break before we continue, kind of thing. It's just a polite way of interacting. Not every set does it. So, ooh, hey, Lara. Okay. Sticks. Anybody know what sticks are? Go ahead, Stephanie.
And then I don't think I know any more of these, so that's the last of my contributions. Is it when the camera is asking for their like tripod or whatever? Like they need to go into a steady.
Oh, I don't know what the term for that is. No, this is with the clapper.
Oh.
When they clap the clapper.
At the beginning of.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And the reason, just so everybody's aware, the reason, like, it seems kind of arbitrary. And like, I've been on sets where they literally had, like intern PAs. It was a student-run production, and the student was like, didn't understand the significance of why they were doing the sticks and why they had to do the sticks as many times as they had to do the sticks and all the things. It's because you want the sound and the video to line up. And so if you can match the sound, then it will sync. And so that's why they do it. But nowadays, they actually have electronic ones that they're all connected. And so the second it clicks, I don't know what it does on the actual film side. Amber, maybe you do. But it it automates it, basically, so that it makes it easier for the sound editor and the actual editor to edit later, basically.
Yeah, it's for editing. And also, sticks is correct for tripod. I've heard it used that way, too.
Okay, I was like, tripod. Yeah, I feel, okay. Not to confuse us, right, with the same words meaning multiple things.
Right. I usually just hear slate.
Slate
for sticks.
Yeah, I've heard sticks. I've heard slate. I'm trying to think. There's something just beeped.
It was me. Sorry.
Oh, okay. my computer doesn't even make that sound. Apple, we've talked about. OTS is over the shoulder, so it's a type of shot. Right. So like if I'm talking to somebody and there's an over the shoulder shot of me, then the camera is over there and they're getting this person's shoulder while they're filming me, kind of thing. And what's interesting is when they do OTSs, then they have to flip and do it the other side. Right. So that that scene's going to get repeated. So if your kid is in it, They're going to do their part, and then they're going to flip and move the camera, do it again. Jonesy shot is the first shot of the day. And I have not heard this on every set we've been on. I don't remember why it's called the Jonesy shot. I actually knew at one point. I looked it up. I should go look it up again. But it's the first shot of the day. Sorry, go ahead.
It's not very common. It's actually newer in the last 10 years or so. It's because someone died on a film set. I believe her name was Sarah Jones, and for a while they did slates for Sarah on Instagram.
Aw.
But it's not very popular. It was more of a hot social media thing.
Gotcha. At the time. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Marsha is the third to last shot of the day. For those of you who grew up with the Brady Bunch, that is amusing. Yes, and it was exactly that attitude, Amber. So Jan used to say that, Marsha. I think my guess is it's just because there's three of them, right? And we're the third to last shot right now. And then Abby Singer is named after an assistant director, Abby Singer, and she apparently announced one more and then moving, right? Like, and then we're moving to another site, or moving to another location, or moving to another scene, kind of thing. So she's the second to last shot.
I think, and I actually didn't know this. I looked this one up before. I had never heard that. And also Kimberly had never heard that on a set. And we created like a list kind of like this years ago. And that pulled up as a popular thing. We're like, we've never heard this. So we looked it up, and I forget if she was an assistant director. That part I don't remember. But she would say this shot and one more shot to make sure the crew is still working efficiently.
Yeah.
So I don't think they were moving somewhere else necessarily. I just think it was like, you're almost done.
Yeah. Well, and then Martini shot this is the last shot we're doing. And it was because then, let's face it, Hollywood was run mostly by men, and then they'd go out and they'd have drinks, right? So that's where that came from. But Martini shot does not mean this is literally the last take. It means this is the last thing that we're filming, and it might take multiple takes and it might take multiple angles, but just start to get ready. You can start wrapping up and putting your any equipment that you're not using for this shot, you can send your assistants off to go deal with that kind of thing. It's for efficiency's sake, so we can get off site sooner, faster, especially if you're paying rental fees by the hour, blah, blah, blah. It's all about communicating with people in terms of speed, mostly. And then Bertuzzi shot is one that you really don't want to do, because it's a shot that happens after the Martini shot. And it's like, oh, darn it. That wasn't the Martini shot after all. Now we have to film this other thing. So hopefully you never hear that term. All right. Any questions about any of those? Any other terms that people remember that you're like, well, what was that term? Or I remember that term. Let me share that term with you all.
One that threw me off for a while was coverage. Like, I guess once they had kind of gotten all their different shots, they would do these sort of like extra shots for coverage, which were sort of like if someone was doing an action, like it. Amber, you probably know better. This is my assessment of what I finally deduced after all the time, but it was like catching these certain shots that they might need as they're editing, like if someone's pinning something to a bulletin board, almost like somebody put B-roll in the thing. It was like kind of almost like B-roll, but it was just meant to give them like these
vignettes.
I guess extra cover as they're editing that they captured something. I don't know.
I've heard people call those pickups.
Oh.
Yeah.
Pickups they need specifically. They're planning on using a pickup extra coverage is just in case.
Bonus. Yeah. Okay.
Extra B-roll just because. Gotcha. Yep. B-roll. I was talking about B-roll.
The coverage would be with sound as well, and they might just say, they'll use coverage in terms of like, oh, we're going to get Amber's coverage. We're going to get Christina's coverage. They'll use it like that too. They'll even say, like, before they do a close-up of me, they'll sometimes say, okay, it's time for Amber's coverage.
Oh, got it. Okay. I kept hearing it all the time, and I'm like, what in the world is this? Okay.
It's used a lot.
Yes.
Love it. Any others? Others that you've heard? Questions you have about any of the ones up here?
MOS, there's no sound. That's a pretty common one.
That's a good one. All right. Then, oops, sorry. Let me get out of there. let's go to our open Q&A. And what is on people's mind? This is where you get to ask any and all questions about any and all topics anybody's wondering. And I'm going to go find the topics that people wanted to talk about in Facebook.
Can I put something out there that I learned really quickly?
Yeah, please.
And that
This
was
is for sharing. This is not just, yeah.
things as a parent when you're on set. I would recommend wearing dark colors, black, navy. You don't want to stand out. You want to be, like Christina said, you want to be in the background. Um, because apparently what I heard is that even when you're wearing certain colors, the lighting can reflect off your clothing, which then affects the scene. That's
Okay.
what I was told anyway. But my very first time on set, I wore a bright pink hoodie with a reflective vest.
Oh,
So
I
it was a
love
little bit,
that.
it was it was cool in weather. I think it was in the fall, and Holding was outside, and the scene that my son had to do had to be was in the front yard, and sun was setting, and I was off to the side, but I was wearing a bright, like it was a reflective, like it was meant for nighttime. So don't do that. So moving forward, now I wear all black head to toe. Long sleeves if I can, like just fully like don't see me. That
Yeah,
was one thing.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a good point. I do actually do that as well. We bring our darks is what we call them.
Yeah,
Because she's in theater, so she has to wear darks all the time for other things. Yeah.
yeah. Don't be me.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that story today. That is a great learning. Yes. All right. So Louisa was asking about IMDb credits, and I actually had a offline conversation with her about those. If anybody else wants to know about them, raise your hand. Let me know. How to support your child without living through them. Hopefully, we've talked about that, but basically, I like to think of it as this is their show. I'm just support. This is not our show, kind of thing. And if it stops being fun and or they don't want to do it anymore, then we stop. Simple. Um, how location affects opportunities or not. So I think the person had been asking about like working local, not working local, and I feel like we covered this in one of our earlier sessions, but I'm happy to cover it again, which is the concept of if the breakdown says local hires or they're looking for local hires, and you are not local to that location. First of all, don't lie and say that you actually are local there. You can say, I can work local to there if you actually can. And then you need to think about what that means for you and your family. So, like, for instance, we have family in New York. We have a place we can stay in Atlanta. We have family we can stay with in Charlotte. We have family we can stay with in LA. So, we can work local because we wouldn't have to we would have to get ourselves there, sure, but we could just live there, right? And it wouldn't be an inconvenience at all. However, if they were doing a shoot that was taking place over the course of 6 months and we would have to fly in every time that they were shooting our daughter's character, that probably wouldn't work, right? Unless they were paying boatloads of money, which why would they do that? They would sooner find somebody that was closer. So you have to be the judge of how often do you want to travel to be considered local, and know that it could also be a hassle if, for example, they needed to reshoot something and then you have to go back, kind of thing. So they're not likely to want to hire folks that aren't local if it's a longer shoot, generally. And you're going to have to be the judge of how much money and time, energy, and effort you want to invest in being local. But whatever you do, don't lie. Just say, we are based in X. We are able to work local too, if you truly are able to work local. Amber, anything you'd add to that?
I have so many things to add to that. So, I agree with 99% of what you just said. if you're going to lie, lie well and be prepared for the financial impact. I say this because literally so many offices, especially New York, is really good for this. If you lie and say you're local in New York, or if you, I live in Atlanta. So if I have an audition that I have to be local in New York and it's a co-star, I might lie. Now, it depends how quickly you can drive there. It depends who you know there. It depends if it's worth it, right? When my foot was broken, forget it. I'm not doing it. It depends on the day. But if you live 3 hours away and they're like, we need true New York City locals, I would say you live in New York, personally. I would also not go against your reps. Make sure reps are on the same page. There are reps out there that will ask you to lie. If you morally do not want to lie, that's okay, and you never have to lie. I had a student years ago, had just come off a bigger project and had an audition for a movie where she wasn't gonna have any speaking lines. It was an improv scene, but it was a big budget movie. And the mom called me and was like, should we even do this? And I was like, yeah, you should do this. Did you look at the producer? And they were like, but it's in New York. And I was like, I would fly there for this. Like, this came out in theaters. Like, it wasn't just, oh, this is background. This is real auditioning. I was like, this is worth it for the credit and for the connections. And the mom was like, I don't feel right about lying. And I was like, then you don't have to. But even her manager was like, you should lie. You should lie. You should lie. She's like, I'm not going to lie. You tell them the truth. If she doesn't get the part, I don't care. They told production that she didn't have the address in New York and that they live in Georgia, and they flew her out first class the next day and gave her lines.
Wow.
The lines got cut from the project, but she got paid. She got up there. It worked out. They thanked them for coming up there. They thanked them for being honest. I've had the exact opposite, where students have lied and said that, yes, I live in New York. And they're like, oh, what school do you go to? And they looked up a random school online and they said the random school. And they were like, oh, no way. My aunt's a teacher there. The casting director then, like, now they're in this whole giant hole of, like, you have to be a good liar to keep this up. So case by case basis, if it's going to be a network co-star and it's your kid's first network co-star, I say it's worth traveling most of the time for. Everybody's financial setup is different. If it's ever going to be like, I can't pay rent, well, don't do it. Okay? If it's like, I'm going to lose $200, but my kid's going to get this great credit, a lot of times it's worth it. Now, if it's a movie that you're going to have to be up there the first week of September and the third week of September and the second week in October, well, then maybe not. Right? But if it's just like 1 week on something, a lot of times it's worth it.
Yeah.
And it also comes down to the states. Certain states will, like Georgia, it doesn't care where you live. You can live in Massachusetts and say, I'm a Georgia local hire. And Georgia's like, cool, we get the tax credit either way if we tell people that you're from here. Whereas other states, you actually need the ID or you need proof of residency. And sometimes an address is enough and sometimes it's not.
Yeah. Sometimes our agent will reach out to the entire group of actors that they represent, and they'll say, "Hey, does anybody have relatives who would be willing to lend an address in Louisiana or wherever it is?" Kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, for the tax credits. I have a student right now filming in Germany because they're a dual citizen. And they wanted someone with an American accent that could work as a true German local hire, and they didn't want to deal with U.S. agents because European laws are different. And it's a big Netflix movie, and my student's filming it right now.
Yeah.
And they do live in Germany, but their grandma lives like 4 hours away, and so production is still putting them up nearby.
That's great.
But they have that address. They have the tax paperwork.
Love it. Love it. All right, so I'm looking. I've got more questions up here, but let me pay attention to the ones in the chat first. We're New York local, but would we get a lot more opportunities to start working as LA local? I do have a family member in LA, or we can stay with them for the summer, etc. Let me see if I understand that. So you live near New York, but you're asking if you'd get more opportunities if you were saying you were LA local. Can you fly at the drop of a hat? I mean, you kind of can't because it takes so long to get there. But
for commercials, yeah, you're gonna have more opportunities in LA. For
Yeah.
TV and film, it's pretty split. It depends on the age of your child. It depends where the rep is. Back in the day, when I first started coaching, a
Sit
lot of
down.
people would come
Relax.
to LA for 3 months and stay all summer, or agents wouldn't even sign them if you weren't willing to spend at least 3 months out of the year there or come during pilot season. That's not really the case anymore because of self tapes. So you're gonna get more commercial auditions. A lot of times you won't even be repped commercially, or you won't see half as many commercial auditions if you're not in one of the major markets. But as far as TV film, saying you're able to work local is helpful for sure, especially if you have friends you can stay with, but just make sure your reps know that. Going for the summer and networking and doing casting direct workshops and stuff is a good idea.
Yeah, and it's let's be sure that we're being super super clear. There's a difference between saying I live in LA and I can work local to LA, right? I live in LA is you got a house and it's yours and you're in school and your kid is in school, all the things. I can work local. They understand that that means that you are willing to travel there. You have somebody you can stay with, like, but you don't pay taxes in that state, kind of thing. Um, all right, let's see. How do they legally try to get around SAG rules of not having to memorize the lines for an audition by pressuring, saying there's someone who will? Oh, that's a great question, Nika. So, Amber, I'm sure you have lots to say about this. Let me. There is, first of all, there's no police. There's no like acting industry police that are going to like dive into every single audition tape and whatever. If somebody wanted to, I mean, you'd have such a hard time getting that case brought to court if you were going to sue because so and so didn't memorize the line, so and so did, and who got the role, and blah 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 blah. Just think about it this way: who's better able to put themselves in the scene? A kid who has the lines memorized, or a kid who's reading? Now, if the kid has really great cold reading skills and they can do it, right? And they can flick and make it believable that they're looking at a prop or whatever, like, okay, fabulous. But it's going to be harder to act if you haven't memorized because it's harder to react when you're trying to pull your line, kind of thing. But Amber, I know you have thoughts on that subject. Go ahead.
I made a huge Technique Tuesday post on this week. I feel like you answered your own question by saying, how do they legally? They say there's someone else who will, or somebody in the office says that. If someone isn't memorized and somebody is memorized and those two tapes get sent up to producers, the producers are going to connect with one more than the other most of the time. Sometimes your kid is the spitting image of somebody. Sometimes they look like the perfect younger version, and there are exceptions to this, but in general, your kids have to learn how to memorize. And the better they are at memorizing, the more likely they are to work.
Yeah. And if you think about it, it doesn't behoove them to not be able to memorize for their self tapes because then they're going to get on set. And if they haven't had the memorization practice, then what are they going to do? Like now the rubber's hitting the road and time is money and right. Like that's not going to end well. If you say you're from New York, for example, will they expect my son to speak with a New York accent? No. That's a great question, Billy. And besides, there's so many different New York accents, right? Like I was born in New York. I spent 18 years of my life in New York. You wouldn't know, right? Yeah. But I worked in the Bronx. Like there was an accent.
Although I was gonna say, we're in Philadelphia, and my daughter happens to really be into accents um and dialects and finds that stuff interesting. So for her, she has spent a little bit of time focusing on a Philadelphia Delco. We're in like that area because we've got Task, Mayor of Easttown, Brad Inglesby is he does a lot in this area, and he does often look for some of those attributes. So though it's never been like an expectation or a necessity, if I feel like if it's something the kid is into, there's again, this is one parent perspective, like there isn't any harm in having that in your back pocket. For her, it's kind of a fun differentiator, like a fun fact, like a little, party, what do you call it?
Party
Kind of
trick.
a thing that,
Yeah.
yeah, party trick.
Yeah. It's a
But
skill.
yeah,
It's a skill. If you've honed an accent, like you should be putting that in, your child should put that in their profile. Like if they can do
yeah.
a British accent, they can do a Brooklyn accent, they can do a Bronx accent, Southern accent, like, yeah, include that. It's a bonus. All right. We live in Oklahoma City, but we're not native here, and family is all in LA, New York City, my eldest brother there, Atlanta, and Miami, and of course Texas, like Ohio. But of course, every callback lately has been Chicago. Oh, I'm sorry, Frankie. I'm so sorry. Isn't that always the case? Yes. Um, Millie left commodity. All right, let me go back to not saying they shouldn't memorize. It just seems like the rule shouldn't be there if they're super strict on it, and maybe they had like 5 separate 4-page auditions for extreme example. Yeah, yeah. Well, and I kind of wonder honestly if when they created that rule, if it was really children they were thinking of. I think it was more that adult members had been complaining about like why should we have to memorize when we can cold read relatively well and yeah, yeah. All right.
It's really about they can't SAG is paying you, right? When you're doing a job, it's just like for a SAG commercial audition. If they want you to improv something, they aren't supposed to use the word improv because that's you're being an actor. They're supposed to have fun with it, switch it up. They speak in like a code. It's just legality to protect themselves. Now, sometimes if your kid is getting that many auditions and your kid's good, if they're not memorized on one thing but they love it, casting loves it, and they just came off another project, it's okay. Like, it is possible to book without being memorized, but a lot of actors, especially newer actors, take it to be like, oh well, I don't have to put effort into this, they're just going to love my look. I'd say that's where you really get into trouble with it. And 5 separate 4-page auditions, if that's in the same week, that's not, believe it or not, it sounds like a lot, I know, but SAG rules have really helped over the years. If you guys have heard of Raven's Home, the TV show, I coached students for that. It came down to my student and one other one. For the lead girl in that, 21 pages first round of auditions. SAG's not even allowed to do that anymore.
Thank goodness.
But that's what it used to be. So sometimes, and I'm not saying this is unique, but sometimes parents will call me and they're like, oh my gosh, we have a last minute audition. It's due next Friday. And I'm like, oh, wow. How long is it? They're like 3 pages. And I'm like, you might need a different career. Because it's quick. I mean, even 5-year-olds. I have 5-year-olds doing 4 pages this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
It depends on the audition, and there are kids that can do it. I have a 5-year-old right now she did a vertical recently. She won a vertical award. She had 112 lines in one vertical.
Wow.
Not every 5-year-old can do that. Yeah. So 112 lines filmed over 5 days.
That's awesome.
That's not meant for a lot of 5-year-olds. So
right.
They kind of tell if your kid isn't memorizing this quick, well, then they're not going to be able to do what is expected of them on set. But if they get the majority of it or one line is wrong, it can still happen, especially younger kids.
Yeah. There's a little more leeway then.
Yeah.
All right. What else have we got here? What to spend on headshots and acting classes? Oh my gosh. That is going to vary so widely depending on where you are. And if you want high quality acting classes that don't cost an arm and a leg, you go to Actor Site and Corey. There you go. Those are key options. So cute, Nika. Yes.
There's a range if you want me to answer that. Corey's done a post on this in Child 101 too about the cost of things.
Yeah, go ahead.
Pretty much you're looking at, for headshots, about 100 a look is minimum. That's pretty standard. Can you get package deal and look out for sales? Absolutely. If someone's saying, hey, it's going to be $1,000, but it's unlimited looks, they better be a great photographer. Not going to say it doesn't happen. If you're worried about the scammy showcases where it's like, yeah, you'll get 8 acting lessons, but it's $2,000, but you get to meet all these agents, it's not technically a scam, but it is way overpriced. At Actor Site, we charge $130 a month. Even our advanced class is $175 a month. I tend to be weary of acting schools charging over $300 a month, really even $250 and up. I don't know of anything legit that's over $300 unless it's like multiple times a week or you're getting an insane amount of other things outside of it. The most I know of a coach charging privately right now is $275. I'm $175 for reference. And Coach Amanda with us is $100 for an hour. That's for an hour.
Yeah.
Another rule of thumb is $1 a minute is like usually what a base acting coach charges, and if they're charging less than that, they usually aren't that qualified.
Yeah. And it's going to vary by market too. Like you're going to
Yes.
find cheaper folks farther away from the major filming hubs. Kind of thing.
Can
Nika was raising her
I
hand.
piggyback on that a little bit?
Sure, Nika, go ahead.
Um, I actually went through something like that. It was like, and it was for, mind you, it was times two because at the time we came from theater, so we went into the film side of it during COVID, and
Mhm.
everything was online, and it was like I found a school, like a coaching school. I don't know, I'm forgetting my thumbs right now. I found acting classes online, and we were doing everything over Zoom. And about 2 weeks later, they were like, "Oh, your children made it to the showcase." And I'm like, "Yeah, the showcase. Okay, whatever. How much does it cost?" Because I feel like this is a money grab, you know. And I was like, both of them made. Not that I didn't believe in my kids, but I'm like, 2 weeks. That's
Mhm.
ridiculous. So I was like, okay, how much is it? And it was like almost like $2,000 per kid, but it was like it was headshots, it was some type of uh like a rapid where they got you together for the showcase and all of this stuff. And I'm like, okay, but like she said, it's they broke it down to like, oh, you can pay so much, like a payment plan. So I made sure that I used a credit card that I can actually dispute it with. And I went ahead and did it, but it worked out in our favor because they did actually get repped by LA agencies, and they're still repped to this day. And my son has did
You.
like movies and TV shows and things like that. So in that case, I'm not saying that that's for it happens with everybody, but in our rare instance, it did help for us. But I was really leery on like, oh, like in 2 weeks, you said we made it to the showcase. I'm like, we just met you guys. Only did a couple of classes, but it ended up working out. So, like you said, they're technically not a scam, but in our case, it worked out.
Yeah. Well, and kudos to you and to your kids.
Yeah, thank you. And we come from the circus theater background, so way different. So my kids, they had to learn. Like my daughter, she was still projecting. Everything was still big, and on camera, you have to bring it all the way down. So, but my son,
Yes.
he got it right away. So,
I love that.
yeah.
Love that. Yay. Um, all right, let's see. How to know whether an agent is the right fit or not, and when to look for a new agent. When it may be time to add a manager, and the difference between an agent and a manager. Oh, so many. Okay. Amber, I'm going to let you start with this one, and then I'm going to give the parent perspective.
The difference between an agent and manager, I missed the first part. I was looking at an email. But the difference between an agent and manager is a handful of things. Agents usually take 10%, non-union print jobs, that kind of stuff, they'll take 20%. Managers sometimes take 15% overall, sometimes 12. It varies. Your manager can help connect you with the bigger agents. Your manager doesn't technically submit you for roles, but like they totally do. Your manager is not supposed to negotiate. If you have a manager, you're also supposed to have an attorney for like big contract jobs, or it's up to the parents to sign the contracts. Agents are allowed to negotiate on your behalf and such. Agencies have to have an in-person location. They have to be bonded. Managers do not have to be. As far as which one you get first, depends on your kid, depends on their look, depends on how good their package is. Having both usually helps your kid get more opportunities. Having both also means your kid makes less money because there's more commission being taken out. See who's helping you. Managers are supposed to give more advice on what your kid wears for headshots and that kind of stuff. Some agents will say, oh, I'm not picking the headshots. Some agents will say, hey, send me all of them. Some agents will say, send me your top 30. Some agents act like managers. The line gets crossed a lot. Managers will often take commission on everything. Agents often do it for only what they submit you for, or if it's still in the same realm. Like if it's all TV film, but some agents won't take voiceover commission. or things like that. It just depends.
Yeah,
What
and
the
it
most
varies
part of it
widely
is.
because there are some agents who just want a take on everything you book.
Mhm.
Um, Abby's agent, they charge 10% for anything SAG and 15% for anything not.
Okay.
Her manager charges 10%. For us, Abby's managers have been extremely helpful because they'll review all of her tapes for big jobs and they'll coach her through some auditions if that's necessary, if they're big enough and require that. When we were first starting out, I had that same question. I was like, okay, what do I need a manager? What's a manager for? And why? I thought I just need an agent, all this stuff. And when we first started, what I was kept hearing was you don't need a manager until your child's making like over $150,000 a year doing what they're doing. But since then, I've had plenty of people say, there's nothing wrong with hiring or not, you're not really hiring them, but engaging with a developmental manager who basically, if your kid has talent and they're doing well, somebody to help shepherd them along and like Amber was talking about, help them get exposure to more agents, to more potential roles, etc. Our manager and our agent both submit Evie for different things. How about thoughts on self-submitting while still repped? Oh yeah, that's it. That showed up in the Facebook group. We personally do. We submit because our agent has a threshold under which they will not submit. It's a monetary threshold. So if it's under a certain amount, they're like, yeah, it's not worth their time. But our daughter loves to do this. And so she'll get on Actors Access herself and be like, Mom, can we go to Georgia and do, whatever? And so we'll self-submit because she wants to go have fun on set. She doesn't care if it's a big payday or not. To her, $125 is a lot of money kind of thing. Even when she has to pay commissions to people, she's still happy about it. Because I actually don't take her commission out of whatever she makes. I just take everything she makes and I put it in her IRA. It's just like, if it's SAG, yeah, the Coogan account takes some and then we put the rest in savings for her.
I would say just don't step on your agent's toes. Some agents do not allow you to self-submit.
True, you got to talk about it with your agent. Yeah.
Yes. And some agents, like I've had students that are repped in LA, but the parents will self-submit in Texas, even though they live in Georgia. And then a lot of times you can get commercials and things like that the agents didn't see because they don't have those regional breakdowns.
Right. They just don't get them. What else have we got in here? Anything else? When to look for a new agent. I see this question a lot coming up in the Facebook group. And it just purely from a personal perspective, I can't talk today. It would seem to me that there are probably some unrealistic expectations that some parents have about what it means when you get an agent. I think I'm under the impression that some parents think that when we get an agent, that means all of a sudden we're going to be getting all these auditions, and that's just not the case, right? You're going to get the auditions that are right for your child at their age and stage and capability that they have, and I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize how much their agent is submitting them for that they are not aware of. And there's that whole fine line of do I ask my agent for a report of all this, a submissions report for, where have you submitted my child in the last year, etc. Our manager gives us one every year. They just run it and they say, okay, these are all the places we submitted her last year. I don't ask for it because I trust our agents. They submit her for everything. There have been things that I have seen on social media or whatever, and I'm like, hey, have any breakdowns come out about this yet? And they'll tell me no, they haven't, but when they do, trust me, we'll submit her kind of thing. And so it's really a question of how much do you trust your agent, and are you looking for a new agent because you think they're not trying for you or not working for you? And if so, then okay, maybe you do want to ask for a submission report, but you should also be working a relationship with your agent. It shouldn't be just a one-time conversation and you're signed and then you never talk to them again. Keep them posted. If your child takes a class, let them know they took, we're adding this class to their Actors Access profile, or we got new headshots. Here they are. To Amber's point, let them have dibs on selecting right? And they'll tell you whether they want all of them or just a selection or your favorites, and then they'll pick or whatnot. Or did they get a self-submit role? Like, tell them that too, assuming that you had that discussion, and self-submission is fine from their perspective. But keep in touch with them, because that too will lower your own anxiety. If you view it as a set it once and forget it kind of relationship, you're going to get like this about it. So I don't know if that helps whoever the person was who asked, but I hope that if they watch this, that they do.
If they aren't getting back to you in a couple days, if you ask them a question, that's another reason. If you feel like they've forgotten about you, but also if you're not getting auditions and your kid isn't training, or you haven't gotten new headshots in 2 years, or the profile isn't updated, that makes a difference too. I no lie, even some good students that I've had over the years don't always do like our parent roadmap or classes like this where you review the actors access. I had like a 12-year-old who their media clip was still from they were 6 years old. It's like their headshot was from when they were 9. It's like yeah, you might actually get an audition off that headshot, but then you're not going to match it, and then you're not going to play 8. So help your agent as much as you can in that front.
Right.
Too.
Make your child as marketable as possible so that nobody is surprised when they go from the Actors Access profile to real.
And if you do leave your agent, leave your current one first. Like if you are looking for another one. Because we do a showcase every year. Our showcase is $250, and we have 13 agents and managers coming this year. So it's like, I mean, even the $2,000 ones are like, you usually have 30 or 40 agents. So it's like, if you look price-wise, we tend to do pretty well there. You can do it for free by submitting yourself. I tell people, if you want to be lazy, then you can do our showcase. We do the work. We bring the people for you. You will get notes. And we've had reps put notes that say, I don't know why they're here. They have an agent and manager listed. So you will hurt yourself if you do that.
Yeah. We had a young woman who's repped by the same agent as our daughter, who went out on their own, got an agent in a different region, never told the local agent about it, and yeah, that didn't end well. All right. And then how to know whether an agent is the right fit. That's going to be a series of questions that you ask the agent at your first meeting, and getting a feel for them and checking references on them and asking, in the group, has anybody ever worked with this agent? What was your impression? Can I DM you and ask you questions, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of like hiring an employee, right? Even though your child is working for them, you still want to figure out, like, how's this relationship going to work? How do we communicate? When is best? What methods are best for communicating with you? What kind of response and turnaround time do you expect? What should I expect? Like, having a setting expectations conversation with them is key to any good relationship, especially agents and managers. Frankie says, how often should you redo headshots? For example, Isla is a strawberry blonde in the fall. She looks more reddish dark blonde, but right now summer she looks blonde. Should we get new headshots? It's only been 4 months, but a new season in terms of matching your headshot. Yeah, Abby's hair changes color with the seasons too. Is it like super dramatic, Frankie? Like she looks like a different kid? You're on mute. We lost Frankie. I'm going to ask her to unmute.
Yeah, sorry, the kids are following me. My twins are we're out of the park. Yes, she does this every fall versus summer. So her headshots last year were very blonde. And then by winter she gets more red, and she's always been like that. She just gets more reddish auburn looking, like the headshot you see right now. But if you look at her right now, like in the last 3 weeks of being in the pool, she's back to like super bright blonde. Like she does not look like the headshot.
Okay.
And then she'll go back again.
So
and she does this every summer, fall. Like people always ask her if she dyes her hair every fall and every summer, and we're like, no, it's just her strawberry blondness.
It's just what happens. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to answer from a mom perspective, but I'd love to hear your perspective, Amber, from the professional side of it. From a mom perspective, I would, if it were my kid, I would keep the photos where her hair is darker and not worry about the lighter ones as much, because you can always temporarily dye her hair a little bit darker in the summertime. But lightening hair is a harder thing to do. Like it's worse on the hair. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
we don't want to dye her hair at all. We're just like, sorry, she's a chameleon. But like, for example, she just got a bunch of auditions, and I know which headshot because I saw on casting networks, and then I'm submitting it, and then I'm just like, she just looks super blonde right now. Like, she doesn't look like her headshot, you know.
Okay.
So
Okay. So, but let me ask you this
yeah,
so for example, we just got a request for something, and they asked if our daughter would be open to having her hair professionally dyed to match the character.
yeah,
So
we would be open to it if they're the right role. But I just feel like I was just kind of wondering when she said like, they have a headshot that doesn't like. I'm like, well, right now I feel like she doesn't match her headshot. So are we like, is it bad that like they're submitting us with this headshot that's only literally since February, and then now she looks super blonde in these audition videos.
so here's a suggestion. You could put in her size card that her hair gets lighter in the summertime and that
Okay.
she's open to having it professionally dyed if necessary.
Okay. Yeah, that would save me money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and
I
Nika,
would,
yeah, it is a thing. Sorry, go ahead, Amber.
I would say for both for Frankie and for Nika, whenever your kids do have a different hairstyle, you can do one additional look. You do not need to go do a whole insane session, or you can just
That's a
submit
good
a
point.
current. I would do that for your reps, but otherwise, in the actual like audition, you can submit a picture of what their hair looks like, Nika, for you, like in this style. You're open to doing it in that style, just so they see the option. And once your kid auditions, don't change their hair
Well, that's kind
until
of
you're back.
hard for us because, like I said, my daughter had changed it weeks after. You know how they say, do the audition and forget it? It had
Mm-hmm.
been weeks, and she had uh, dreads at the time, and then she had combed them out, and this was her first time ever getting her hair done straight, and it was for her birthday. And they were like, "Can you show us what her hair looks like, straight?" And we're like, "We can't show you because she's never had it straightened." So in that situation, it's like, and they were all like, "Oh, but she had her afro." And we're all like, "Okay, well, she's never had it straightened, so we can't show you." So it's really hard for us with the.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
just
industry is not very awake in that regard.
I have lots of clients in your shoes, and the mom will keep a picture with the kids whenever they have their hair that way, just to keep it for the future, and just that you're willing to go back to it. And if it's for some non-union thing or $500, I'm not doing it. Right? It better be worth it.
Right.
Okay.
You got to just the hair appointment alone. My goodness.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Comments, needs, desires? Amber has been kind enough to share a discount code, 25% off of classes, and it will work until Monday. Use the code 250.
And it's for all classes, all intensives. You can sign up through September. If
Yay.
it's on
You're
the
welcome,
website,
Christy.
you can use it.
Yay. You're welcome, Christy. You spell your name properly. Thank you. Stephanie,
Oh,
do you want to add something?
I have one last random question. You guys were talking about managers. Um, do your managers, are they willing to watch clips and help you narrow down content for reels? Or is that a
Yeah.
little bit above? I mean, I'm
Our
sure it's
manager
person dependent, but
our manager has cut us reels.
oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. Now not every
I
manager will do that. Like,
Yeah,
Sure.
I will say
yeah.
most won't cut, but they'll tell you which parts to do.
They would recommend. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some casting directors, not casting directors, some managers will watch self tapes, like Christina said. Some will only watch certain ones. So, especially, and I will say this because people get this wrong all the time, parents will turn it in 3 hours before the deadline and then send it to the manager. And if you're already submitting it, like they're not going to get back to you with notes. And if you say, "Oh, I want notes for next time," they're going to be like, "I'm busy, go to class for that." I've seen that happen with multiple managers. Now, if you get it to them 3 days ahead of time, you also can't be mad if they ask you to redo something. So you got it. Getting the feedback is great, but sometimes I've had managers say, yeah, we need you to change this one word. And then you're like, it's a 5-page scene. So, you know,
Be willing. Yeah.
be willing.
Yeah. All right. Well, if anybody wants the full notes from today, go ahead and drop your email. You can drop it in the chat, or you can drop a chat just to me. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to drop them into Facebook or DM me or Amber. I'm sure she'd be happy to answer. And with that, our next session, let me just go back here. Hold on. Dun, dun, dun.
I have to go get ready for a coaching. Goodbye, everybody.
Go, you go. Hello. Make my mouse work. Okay. Our next session, oh, sorry, I promised you this. If you don't know, this is where you go to find the email that, or not email, sorry, the post that Corey posted, where all those resources are. If you go up to the top of the Facebook page, you can click on featured, and then scroll down a little bit, you will see this icon, this infographic. And he posted on May 5th of this year. And it gives you all the details and all those links that we shared before. And then the next time we'll meet will be an evening session, a cocktail versus a coffee, next Thursday, July 9th. And then we're actually going to skip a week and come back on Friday, July 24th for noon coffee hour, Eastern time. Morning coffee for those on the West Coast. All right. But other than that, thank you all for coming. You've got this. Let us know if we can help in any way. And it was great to see you. Happy 4th of July, all.
You too. Bye,
And
guys.
Jeanette, happy thank you for being our northern neighbor.
Thanks for having me.
Yay.
From the bathroom of a hotel room.
Hey, enjoy your vacation. You deserve it. Bye, all. Take care.